are the Coasters Consulting Group. My name is Erica Olsen. I am the project leader. With me, I've got my colleagues, Fritz, Lucas, and Niels. We are here to discuss the KICC project, a project designed to bridge the divide between the new recruits and the Samsung spirit. This will bridge this cultural divide by creating task force groups of the new recruits, existing employees, and hire senior partners of the firm, and involving them in live case work. First of all, I want to thank you for bringing this in. It's a fantastic company to work for, Samsung. You've got great, strong company culture and beautiful values, and a company that is working on implementing human development in such a way, and you've obviously had great success with that already. We think it's fantastic to work for you. And as we see, a unique culture will be the crucial weapon for one to become the true winner of the world. Therefore, our steps forward, we would like to work on your culture and make sure you bring it with you in the future. The market is shifting. Things are happening, and the culture in your country is also shifting. We've got a new generation coming up. They require more work-life balance. They require new things from their employers. And these are challenges that you need to face. You cannot expect the same things from your employees anymore, and we need to bridge this gap. So you can still maintain the strong company culture that you have, but also bring in these new recruits that are the future of your company. The Pegasus project have three core objectives. We want complete reach. We want all 10,000 new recruits every year to be involved in this. We want integration. They should be a part of the company culture. They should know it as if they were born with it. And we want long-term results. This is work for the future. This is not something that is going to be happening for a couple of months and then be stored in a back shelf. We're integrating this into your core processes because this should be a lasting change. Now I would like to hand over to my colleague Fritz, who will talk about how to implement this.
Thank you, Erica. So we'll now start by just showing the rough framework that we have created. As you can see here, we have three silos, three different kinds of employees that we find in your organization right now. And those would be the new graduates. This has been traditionally the strongest party of your recruitment. The vast majority from the new recruitments come from this section. Then two, we have the experienced professionals, hires. We see those in the middle. And the third, we've got the senior employees, who are, of course, a majority of the business. Traditionally, these three have been divided. There have been gaps between them. What we have seen is that the senior employees, they might find that the younger new hires, they might not take the business as serious. They have different values there. And the new employees, the Generation Y that comes into this organization, they find that the conservative values of the old employees might clash with their own preferences for work-life balance, flexibility, autonomy, and these values. So what we have done is that we have created a concept that would bridge the divide between these silos. And our idea is that we would create task force settings where we bring project groups together through a continuous process, and we would introduce the new employees not just into the company, but also to senior employees, also to new experienced hires. And if you look at what we've shown here is also the original structure that you had. Recent graduates, they would come in and they would go through the NEO program, the new employee, the new employee orientation program. This would be a 4-week program, and it would involve a couple of steps that I will go into detail later, and it would then give them a chance, based on this initial introduction to the company, to go through more extensive learning over a period of a year, which is represented by this blue arrow that goes down here. If we look, however, at the professional hires that come into the company, the new professional professional hires that come into the company, there would be no such thing. So traditionally, there would not be any introduction for these people. If you look at our concept, however, you see that there is now an introduction for them as well. I will get back to the details of this introduction program, of course. And then if you look at the blue arrow here, that would not be a training program, but that would just be working. So there was no existing integration for these new hires. And the same, of course, I mean, for existing employees, they would not be integrated into this introduction of new employees at all. They would just do their work parallelly. So what we do now, that we take these three different individual blue arrows, the working independently, the new working, and the training, and in different time points, we connect them through these real-life cases, which I will talk about next. Actually, first, let me talk about the restructuring of this initial program. The way it was originally designed, that the first week, 1 week, would introduce the new graduates to the Samsung spirit. And the Samsung spirit, if I may just quote, is the need to actively participate with our customers to recognize and to confront the global challenge and to be ready for a better future for all. And we think this is very valuable, yes, but it is also very specific for a new graduate. If a new professional comes into the company and the new professional has some understanding of business already, understanding the customers, this is a very core principle that people that come from other companies might already have. So our idea then is that for the new introduction program, for the professional hires that you didn't previously have, we would drop this. If we continue walking, etiquette is something that's very important for the new graduates that come into the business. Etiquette towards superior or towards more senior employees is something that's especially important in Korea with your hierarchical culture and so on. And you might be surprised then why we're dropping this. We're not really dropping this. This will only be shifted towards the next step when we talk about the project groups and the clusters, which I will show on the next slide. Finally, there has been a section where the Samsung way has been presented to these new hires. And the Samsung way is, of course, really important. We appreciate your values. And Erica already mentioned that we've been really impressed how people-focused these values are, unity and excellence. And we think they're great, and we don't think they should be dropped at all. We think they should really still be a core of this introduction program. We think it should even be extended. We think it should not just be for the new graduate, but it should also be for the new professional. So that's why we took this as a key point for the new introduction program. And not just is there a theoretical introduction to this, no, it will also be applied in live cases. So that's what you see in the fourth step. Now, I've talked a lot about these cases, and you will wonder how do these cases look like, these live cases, and how do these projects that we've introduced look like. After the initial training, what will happen is that we will form groups of project leaders. Project leaders are people that are existing senior people from the organization that are in charge of overseeing these projects. And then you would have directors. These are more senior people. I've already talked about it. It's the vast majority of your employees. We would bring some of these and to integrate them also into this process. Then you have the professional hires and the graduates who would be the majority in these project groups. So we would have 20 people that would not usually cooperate so closely at this early stage. They would just work parallelly. And these 20 people would come together for 2 days every second month. And they would work on live cases. So they would not work on something very theoretical, but they would work on an actual problem that Samsung is encountering. They would work on an actual, and this is not a management problem, but this is an actual problem that in their department someone is working on and they're struggling with. And it could be all kinds of different fields. And these problems are then brought into these projects, and they work on them and they crack these problems, and they can take whatever solutions they find there, they can take these solutions from these project group meetings, and they take these solutions back into their work. So this way, we integrate these solutions into the core process. So we take something from being something that happens once every 2 months to something that happens once every 2 months, and they derive takeaways from that. And they take these back to the everyday work and they relate back to it. So in order to do this, the project leader closely aligns with the human resource as well. We will also later get back to this. It'll be also integrated in performance valuation, performance measurement, and these kind. At the end of these project meetings, it will not just be a professional advancement that is there. We don't just want them to solve the actual business problem. We want them, and this is really the essence, we want them also to work on cultural issues. We want, that's why we include the HR department as well. We want them to discuss all these differences. We want them to discuss team dynamics. We want them to discuss what's the difference between the new hire, what's the difference between the new professional, and what's the difference between the senior guy. Where's their conflict? Because theoretically, your traditional values, they should apply for all of them, and still we see this bridge. So we want this to be a topic. That's why at the end of all these project sessions or these project group meetings, we have a reflection phase as well, where HR is also incorporated. So now you wonder, how are we going to integrate this into your corporation? How are we going to implement this? What is our action plan? Well, first, we would like to have a pilot project. Our recommendation for you is to take a project group and see how specifically does this work. Just take 20 people with the hierarchy that I've shown before, with the project leader, the senior employees, the new professionals, and the new hires, and you put them in a group setting and you see how do they work together. How can we help them advance? So then, over the first quarter, we would like you to observe a group like this. We'd like you to observe a group like this. We'd like you to put some HR people in observing situations and have them design the reflection bit. Because that's what we think is essential, that we can derive information from these meetings as well. That we can give something to the employees, these are issues that you need to discuss, but we can take something away also for our HR process. At the end of the pilot, of course, there will be an assessment. Then, the first phase is initialization. In the initialization phase, we would recommend you to come up with the project team for our Project Pegasus. The project team should be led by the head of HR development, which already is traditionally a very powerful position in your company. We would also need to train the task force leaders. Of course, you can't just appoint someone to be a leader of a task force of 20 people and to coordinate, decide which work is going to be brought into this task. No, they need to be trained. So they need to be trained in your facilities, which we know are world-class. Talking about these facilities, we would like you to also ready these facilities. Right now, they're made for these 10,000 new hires that you have every year. We want to add 3,000 people to this. We want to add 3,000 people to this in the sense that we're taking the new professionals in there as well. This will only be 2 days every second month, so it will not be full capacity, but the facilities need to be ready. And then finally, we move on to operationalizing this. And we think it's really key that this is divided into steps. And it becomes very natural because your new hires are, of course, not all hired at the same time. So by dividing that into 3 steps, or initially at this stage, by dividing it into 3 steps, we can take them in gradually. We can take them in gradually, and by taking in more project groups bit by bit, it gives us a chance to do assessments in between. What worked? Where are we struggling? What do we need to improve on? What is something that they can actually take with them to their everyday work, and what is something that is maybe not a core process? Which kind of work is efficient? Which kind of work can be transferred? Which kind of work cannot be transferred? And that would conclude our integration. And I would now like to hand over to Lucas, who will talk about the costs of this integration, and who will also give another perspective on the impact.
Thank you. So, we want to point out that Project Pegasus is not a one-off thing. It's really something which will be in long-term included into your company, which will go on for the next 10 years or 20 years. We really want to integrate it into your core processes. So that will be costly. We estimated that it will cost you around 22 million each year. So how did we divide this cost? We said that the costs are mainly the project leaders. So the labor cost for the project leaders. So you may ask, why didn't we include the senior employees and the other members of the task force into this calculation? talking about just communication. So, then how did we derive that? As Fritz said, every second month a 2-day session. So 12 sessions each year. We set 20 people in each task force, and we saw from your last numbers, which you gave us, that we had 9,000 new hires last year. We assumed that there will be 10,000 next year. So we have 10,000 new hires, so we will reach all the new hires, and we'll have 3,000 senior employees working in this task force under the task force leader. So we estimated that it will cost $2,800 each day to send your task force leader in the develop these cases, or not develop them, but take them from the participants and develop these sessions and code these sessions. So that's how we derive that. So now let's talk about actually how do we finance that. We saw that you had a great increase in revenues in the last years. Last year you had an increase in 10 billion in revenues, and we really think that we can use the profits which you make to actually implement this project. Then let's go on to the actual impact. I mean, as our project leader Erika mentioned, our objectives are integration, reach, and long-term sustainability on the left side, on the right side. So how do we reach that? We think that we reach the integration by really using this live case, this cooperative live cases, where you have the senior employees and you have the new employees, where there was no description. So they will actually work together and they will resolve these conflicts. And also what's really important for us, that actually the task force leaders are senior to everyone in the task force. So there will not be a cultural problem in that sense, that we say, let's do it the Swedish way, let's forget about hierarchy, let's have a bottom-up approach. And I think that is really important for the acceptance of this when it comes to the senior employees. So coming to the reach, as we already mentioned, we want to reach all 10,000 new hires each year. It means really important that you not only include the new graduates, but also the professional hires. And we will also reach 6,000 senior employees. You might wonder, why 6,000? I mentioned 3,000 before. That's because it will shift after 6 months. So we'll have new senior employees coming into this task force to actually have a wider spread, also for your existing employees. And coming to the long-term impact, we really think that that should be something which is long-term integrated in HR processes. So the task force leaders will closely work with the HR department and give the stakeholders in the HR department, and then include this in the recruitment and also in the career advancement and in the promotion to have a lasting impact. Now my colleague Niels will continue with the actual impact on the culture and the strengths and challenges.
Thank you very much, Lucas. So we're talking a lot about culture, and especially the cultural change that we currently see in South Korea, which is very bad, because the younger generation is really getting rid of the old and traditional values, you might say, that they had before. They are not so power distant anymore, they are actually not so hierarchical anymore, and they are really trying to emphasize the work-life balance. But does this really reflect actually in Samsung? And is it really an important thing that actually drives a cultural change? Does Samsung have to change its culture? And we believe that it actually just has to revitalize its current culture, because the culture was always driven by change, by being open to the people and actually being influenced by the people in the firm. So what we really want to do is we strengthen the corporate values that we have. And the corporate values are the core of the culture after all. And the corporate values are people, they are change, and they are innovation. So with business results are created through cooperation. This is actually something that you have done and that you have said in the past. And we want to emphasize that once again. So together with you, we believe that a fast, dynamic, and flexible, performance-oriented culture can be set in place again at your firm. So now, looking at the strengths and the challenges that might come up from this plan. One of the biggest strengths really is the timing. You really should do this now. You have a lot of demographic changes. The hiring patterns in your company have changed. You're hiring more international recruits, you're hiring more experienced recruits. And the industry itself changes as well. There's no better time to act than now. I just said that we want to concentrate on existing values, so you don't even have to create a new value system. It's already set in place. After all, it will be an incremental cultural change. Innovativeness in people and hiring are the basis of the cultural change that might occur over time. As new younger generations come in, of course also the culture will be changed a little bit, because after all, we always know that culture will always be defined by the people that work in the company. There will be more communication among generations. This will create a smooth transition as younger employees enter the firm, take more senior roles, and might act a little bit differently in the senior role, not being so concerned about how they are addressed by the junior employees. Also, we believe that innovation can be driven with the new cluster system and the project groups that are created. We've always seen that project groups working together with senior and with junior employees yield better results than other groups. If they work together, Samsung can keep up its innovativeness that's made it so strong in the past. And after all, Fritz has pointed out, we're using the training facilities that you already have. You have 13 huge training facilities in South Korea alone. So all we're doing is utilize the resources that you already own. However, we of course also know that there are challenges connected to this. One of the largest challenges is the acceptance. Will the senior employees actually accept that change? Are they actually willing to work together with junior employees who might bring a new flair and who might not always accept everything that actually we are proposing to you right now? Is it something they will really internalize right away? Probably not. It's going to take time, yes. But it's something that you have to do if you want to compete in the global marketplace in the future as well. This also comes with conflict. There might be conflict between new hires and the senior employees that you already have. And again, it's something that you have to work on, but there's no better place to work on this than actually in the project groups themselves. And lastly, there is the recruitment and the cultural impact problem. What I mean with this is the fact that new recruits, new college graduates, they might not actually see that you're acting on the cultural issues that arise in your company, because you're not sending out a message, hey, we're changing. You're not changing your culture after all, like I mentioned before. You're changing incrementally. Yes, it's very slow. So some of the top recruits might be saying, well, Samsung, it's still such an old company, I will not work for that company. And it's something that you have to work with, and it's a large challenge. So just summing all this up, what are we doing? We're utilizing the existing culture and the resources that you've always had. The communication between employee groups will be strengthened and will drive innovation. There will be an incremental cultural development. It will be slow, but it will be effective, and it will take in all the ideas from all your employees, new and old. So clusters create the crucial weapon to become the winner of the world, the unique Samsung culture, which you will have in the future.